Hi guys, this is Miss Glass. I wanted to share with you guys today a lesson about a group of people in Alabama. They're called the Geesben Quilters. It is in celebration of Black History Month, and this is a very interesting group of artists that I think would be wonderful to talk about. And we are going to be doing this, I think, just for today. We'll kind of see how it goes. But we are going to be constructing our own quilt for our class. Now, we won't have time to, of course, do it stitch by stitch, but I am going to be doing some different methods with you guys with paper cutting, and we are going to be designing our own patterns for our quilt. So we'll talk about things like repetition, pattern, things like that to kind of get that going in just a little bit. For now, I wanted to talk to you guys about the history part and why these people were so important to our local history in Alabama. So, if you look at the screen here, this already talks about. I wanted to read this to you a little bit. This kind of tells you some good history about this group of people, and then from there, we'll kind of take a look at their art here. It's been wonderfully documented for us to take a look at, and what makes it so interesting. Okay, so again, Gee's Bend is basically talking about a place. So they're called Gee's Bend Quilters, but they're from this area of Alabama. Gee's Bend is such a small town that not many people kind of know where that's at. So I can tell you the nearest place next to it is still a small town, but it is called Boykin, Alabama. So that is where this is on Google Earth. So I will say it's called Gee's Bend because of the Alabama River here. This kind of suggests a G. Some of us would say, no, that looks more like a C. But it reminded someone of a G. So ergo, the Gee's Bend. So that's pretty much how I got that name. But yeah, so that is the area we are speaking about. I can kind of zoom out. Let's see if I can figure out where that is on here. Well, no, that's not it. That's doing my screen. Okay, well, I think that's okay. I'll just leave it there. I don't want to mess with it. So we'll go back over here. So this is pretty much it's more close. It's closer to Montgomery, essentially. It's not really near us, but it's not again like far away from us. It's relatively close. All right, so here we go. The residents of Geesman, Alabama, are direct descendants of the enslaved people who worked the cotton plantation established in 1816 by Joseph Gee. After the Civil War, their ancestors remained on the plantation working as sharecroppers. In the 1930s, the price of cotton fell and the community faced ruin. As part of its Depression era intervention, the federal government purchased 10,000 acres of the former plantation and provided loans enabling residents to acquire or to gain the farm and the land formerly worked by their ancestors. Unlike the residents of other tenant communities who could be forced by economic circumstances to move or who were sometimes evicted or removed in retaliation for their efforts to achieve civil rights. The people the people of the Bend could retain their land and homes. Cultural traditions like quilt making were nourished by these communities. Okay. Most Gee's Bend residents, accordingly, did not participate in the Great Migration, during which over 6 million African Americans from the rural South journeyed to the cities of the North, Midwest, and West from about 1916 to 1970. By remaining in Alabama, most were not afforded the opportunity to become participants in the burgeoning or developing American middle class, the wellspring of opportunity for many of the artists today recognized in the global art market. In the 1960s, spurred on by Martin Luther King Jr.'s visit, community members became active in the civil rights movement, ferrying to the county seat at Camden to register to vote. So ferrying is talking about a boat ride. So that river you saw in Gee's Bend right here, they actually had to ferry over to this place right here called Camden. That was the nearest voting place. Now, you could argue that it was purposely kind of put pretty far away here, and it probably was to discourage the voting of these African American residents. But buddy, they traveled, they crossed that river, and they kept going to make it to Camden in order to vote. So Martin Luther King Jr. did visit here and encouraged them to do that. So they underwent that journey to participate in to make sure their voice was heard. All right, so back over here. active in the civil rights movement. Authorities reacted by eliminating ferry service altogether. So they blocked them by saying no more boat rides, effectively isolating the community and cutting it off from basic services. During this period, local women came together to found the Freedom Quilting Bee, a workers' cooperative that provided much needed economic opportunity and political empowerment. Throughout this time and up into the present, the settlement's unique patchwork quilting tradition that began in the 19th century has endured. Hailed by the New York Times as some of the most miraculous works of modern art America has produced, Geesman quilts constitute a crucial chapter in the history of American art, and today are in the permanent collections of over 20 leading art museums. Okay, so here is some of the quilts here, and as you can see, like, these are not about perfection. Something that you need to know is that these were not done for the purpose of making art. Like, we talk about how design and function kind of go hand in hand, or at least I'm starting to with you guys, and understand that, like, a lot of times the function is more important than how something looks. We like to have something to look a certain way, yes, but the function is truly at its core what it's used for. So obviously blankets, they're meant to keep you warm, and so these were built out of necessity. And of course, they had some very interesting designs. They used what they could, what they had at the time, and it kind of recorded the current history of that area, basically. So if there was a lot of people out of jobs, like, they didn't have like fabric you could buy at the store. Back in the day, they might be able to repurpose flour sacks. They were made from cloth so that people could use them once the flour was gone. They could actually make things out of that cloth. Let's see, work clothes. If someone's work clothes broke down enough where they couldn't wear them anymore, they were not thrown away. They were kind of ripped apart and put in these quilts. And those are very denim-y. Like, you'll see lots of denim in some, like this one right here. This is mostly denim. And that's probably like work overalls, whether they were farmers or workers somewhere in a city where they traveled to. That was probably where all this denim came from. And you can imagine that's a very heavy, warm quilt. But yeah, and some other ones, like I said, the flour sacks, of course, even clothing like dresses, people who outgrow them, there's no more kids to pass them down to. And of course, clothing for even, I mean, just anyone in the family. Like, if it got ripped or damaged or threadbare, it was not thrown away. It was put in these quilts. So very interesting way to construct these. And of course, like I said, they are not perfect. Like, they weren't meant to be. They were meant to satisfy a need or a purpose. And these ladies would come together to houses, essentially, is how quilting works. It's a very strong tradition that has survived over a long time, generations and generations in the South. And people would kind of meet up, like aunts, daughters, grandmas, moms. I mean, they would all kind of go to one place and they would quilt together. And you can imagine, if you have a group of people working on something like this, it goes by so much quicker. So they kind of helped each other out, and this became a community effort. So really awesome patterns here. So something to keep in mind today, we are going to be talking about like geometrical patterns and repetitions and things like that. But understand, like, you can kind of alter them and change them as you are deciding what design you want to use. So remember about composition, how it's laid out. Like, if you don't like the way it's looking, the really good thing about our cut paper method today of collage, it's called collage, that you can kind of move it around before you glue it down and make your final decision. So you can kind of keep moving it around until you kind of like how it's looking. So you can kind of think about these patterns, like what you want it to kind of look like. Each one of us are going to do kind of like a square of the quilt. So you can kind of see these, a lot of times, are kind of broken off into squares. Some of them aren't, but overall, that's usually how quilts are developed. So anyways, I'll stop here and we will talk about the rest of it on the board, and I'll get you guys started. Okay. All right. Thank you guys so much. Bye.